Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Wide Net of Esoterica. I'm your host, Ian Stewart. I'm speaking to you today from the Luykas van Alen house here in Kinderhook, New York. The Van Alen house is a classic example of New World Dutch architecture. So I'm using it today as a way to introduce you to Dutch architecture in the New World by looking at its various components, so that you too, upon looking at a house, could say, I think that's Dutch. So, the first thing we're going to notice is the stepped gables. So you see in the brick, the gables stick up beyond the roof line. It's a pretty classic example of Dutch architecture here in the New World, especially brick. Now this is what we would consider a Dutch brick house. It's a fully articulated timber frame that's then brick clad. It's been built in multiple sections. The initial section is 1737, but if we pan over here just a hair, you can see there are at least 2 building campaigns here, potentially 3. So if we look here at this house, there are other things that give us hints, clues, that this is Dutch architecture. This is a Netherlandish house. So, if we pan over here and zoom in on that door, you can see there that the door is upper door. It's got an upper door and a lower door. And this stoop out front, that's pretty classic Netherlandish trait. Above the door you've got those fixed casement windows. Again, pretty classic Netherlandish trait. You pan over here and you look, all of the doors are what we call Dutch doors. Now if you look at the shutters of these windows, you see they've got pancake, the sort of ball and spear hinges on pintles. Again, it's a pretty classic Netherlandish design. And if you look at these windows, it's there are 2 sort of tall windows next to each other. Those are classic bolkazijn windows. There are multiple types of windows you'll find in Netherlandish houses. Kruiskazijn, which is the sort of cross form, so you'll see it's 4 windows. The top 2 are fixed, the bottom 2 are swinging. These are bolkazijn, sort of side by each. And you get Kloosterkazijn, which is usually just a fixed window. Now, the bond pattern here is Flemish bond. And if you look at the bricks, you've got glazed bricks and normal bricks. So the glazed bricks are blackened. That's a pretty typical Netherlandish design. So we'll stop here and swing around to the other end of the building. We'll look at the gable end. So here we are at the gable ends. And there are several key ingredients here that will teach you, if you're looking at a brick house that looks like this, whether or not it's Netherlandish. So I mentioned the Kloosterkazijn windows earlier. If you look in the upper story of the garret, those are your Kloosterkazijns. From here you can see that the first floor windows are about 4 feet below the plate. That's the typical Netherlandish construction form. In timber framing, it's referred to as an H-bent. It's a residential structure. The tenants go all the way through. It's a through beam. It's a tussenbalgewind. They're typically 4 foot on center. So, 4 foot running down the length of the building. Again, up on the second story, or in Netherlandish fashion, use ground story, first story, second story, or eerst verdieping. So verdieping is a story. So in the Esoterica, you have the Volksdesign windows to let light into the garret. You also see here, see if we can zoom in on some of them. You've got these iron date anchors. These are wall anchors. The Dutch word is muuranker. Those take the timber frame and tie it to the brick cladding. So you'll see up in the garret, up in the gable, you've got more of those wall anchors. And also up in the gable, you have what is called vlechtingen, also sometimes referred to as tumbling. Some people have called it mouse toothing, moustanden. That is incorrect. Mouse toothing is something else, but this is vlechtingen. So it's those triangles of brick that give you a flat surface at the top of the gable. So you don't have to cut the bricks on an angle. So that's how you make those flat gables like that, is used through the use of vlechtingen, or tumbling. So to recap, H-bent, giving us a 4-foot knee wall. So from the height of the through beam to the plate, 4 feet. Bents, 4 feet apart. This has got 3 stories. So ground story, first story, second story. So ground, eerste verdieping, tweede verdieping. Also, you'll see Netherlandish houses, these fixed gutters. Typically the hangers, you'll see them. The hangers generally are flat because the gutters themselves were sloped inside. Again, you've got the Volksdesign windows and Flemish bond. So let's go around the backside and see what else we can see. So here we are on the backside, and you can pretty clearly see that this is a building that was done in multiple campaigns from the brickwork. You know, just astride this window, below that parapeted gable, the brickwork changes pretty clearly. We've got a Dutch door, we've got Volksdesign windows, and if you look from the top of this window to the plate, it's about 4 feet. That's your verdieping there. That's your knee wall. So, brick house, height of fashion. In the Hudson Valley, in the 17th century, many of the bricks were being brought over. In the early 17th century, the bricks were being brought over as ballast in West India Company ships. By the 18th century, there's a robust brick-making industry here in the United States, in the colonies, in New York at the time. So these are most likely locally made bricks. But again, this is high fashion Netherlandish architecture. It's sort of gone out of style by the 1730s in the Netherlands, in the more stylish places. But here in New York, it holds on much later. So this is 1737 is the original construction date, and then I think in the 1750s the addition gets added on. You can see the gutters here, deeply pitched roofs up to the chimneys. These chimneys are most likely, I know because I've been in this building, they're jamless fireplaces. So at some point when I can get into one of these buildings and show you what a jamless fireplace is, I will. Foundation is stone, brick above. Lower in the valley, you will get these houses, this form made out of stone, because there was lots of stone lying around, and there were also Flemish stonemasons who could do the work. Typically, in the Netherlands, you build with brick, and in Flanders, you build with stone. There's some places, Zeeland, where you see a Flemish influence, but the Netherlands proper, stone is not a common building material unless you're building a church or a state house. So, brick. Brick or timber, timber with timber cladding, but obviously a lot of those don't survive. So let's check out the other gable end. All right, so before we go to the other gable end, let's get a good close look at this door. Upper and lower, Dutch door. 4 panels recessed. Big timber header up here protruding out. You can see the handle here. It's a turn hasp handle. This is a pretty typical design here in the Hudson Valley. The locking bit would be the upper part, which pushes onto the lower part. They're basically interconnected doors. This allows you to open the top door on either side of the house and get a breeze through. It also, allows the children to run around inside and not worry about them getting out, while allowing for air in the house. So, all right, let's check out the other gable side. So on this gable end, we've got Flatgen up in the gable. So there's your tumbling, your Kloosterkazijn windows, so single fixed casements. And then you see here again the wall anchors, the muur anchors, up through the gable, tying the rafters to the brick cladding. And then down here, you can see with the plane, so these are tying your posts. They're tying your post there to the brick, and there, sort of in that lane there, and then right across the building, you can see these 2 muur anchors. That's where your through beam is. So this is the height of that through beam. So you can see how you could get an H out of this. This is a pretty solid example. Post, beam, your through beam there, your tussenbalk, and there it is. That gives you your framing. So if you're looking at a building, you're seeing wall anchors, and they're indicating that you've got posts that protrude up beyond the level of the beam, chances are you're looking at a Netherlandish frame. So again, Flatgen, H-bents, tussenbalk, wall anchors, muur anchor, Kloosterkazijn windows, Bolkazijn windows, Kruiskazijn windows, Dutch doors. It says it right there in the name. The gutters, all parapeted gables. This is a pretty classic Netherlandish house here in the Upper Hudson Valley, where we have a lot of brick of these. So, hopefully that helps. Again, I'm Ian Stewart here at the Luykas van Alen house, which is owned and operated by the Columbia County Historical Society. Down in the description below, I've put a link to their website. So, their executive director was nice enough to let me come out here and record. Hopefully this has been informative. Remember, if you've got a question that you'd like me to answer, just click the link in the description for the form, ask your question, and I'll do my best to answer it. So, for Wide Note of Esoterica, I'm Ian Stewart. Thanks for coming.